With the AYN Odin slated to be one of the biggest releases of a console this year, I do want to cover something else on it that not a lot of people have talked about. Since this is such a powerful console, you can really upscale a lot of these systems and they look great on your TV. But what a lot of people have been asking me is what kind of dock should I get for the Odin 2? And I do think that these two here are the best docks that you can get right now. The AYANEO Multistation Dock being the more premium option, and it does have a lot of compatibility with this. This does also work with the Loki devices, so if you have a Loki and you have an Odin, this is the one I would recommend, especially if you have a lot of things that you want to plug into it. But if you're okay with something a little bit more budget, the one from Skull & Co is also really good. So let's take a closer look at these two docks just to see why they're so good for the Odin 2 and which one I would recommend for you. The pricing on these two docks is pretty different, and the one from AYANEO, being the more premium option, is priced more expensive at $89 US. This comes in gray or black. And I do think this dock looks amazing. It's very sleek and minimalistic, and it's got tons of I/O to it. Because the USB is on the bottom, this does have a lot of compatibility with many different handhelds. This does work well on the AYN Loki, and it works well on the Odin 2, as we'll take a look here in a minute. You're getting one USB-C for data transfer. You're getting two USB-As, of course the USB-C for power delivery, and the HDMI, as well as a gigabit Ethernet port. You also have a micro SD card reader and a standard SD card slot, which is really nice. I gotta hand it to AYANEO, they do make some really nice stuff, but it is pretty expensive. We also have a power indicator to tell us what's going on with this. And to expand that compatibility further, this USB port is slidable, and we can take a closer look at that when we're looking at the dock. Both the USB-C and the USB-A reach up to 5 gigabits per second. I actually have two of these, and I put one on my desk and one underneath my TV, and I've been really happy with both of them. It's also worth noting that this is only going up to 60 watt charging, but I haven't noticed any issues with the Loki or the Odin 2. The Jumpgate dock from Skull & Co is going to be the more budget option of the two. You can get this dock for as cheap as $20 US plus shipping. The Jumpgate Pro is going to offer you a little bit more, but it's going to go up to $40 US. The biggest difference between these two is the core one that is slightly cheaper is only going to go up to 4K 60, 2K 60, or 1080p 120. The Pro variant, though, does go up to 1080p 240Hz. This is also going to boost 2K to 120Hz, and 4K is still going to be 60Hz. The core one only comes with one USB 2, and that's only going to go up to 480 megabits per second. The Pro model, though, comes with 3 USB 3s, and those are going to go up to 5 gigabits per second each. Both of these docks are made out of plastic. If you are going to go for this one, I would recommend the standard Jumpgate if you're just using it on a 4K 60 TV. If you want to connect this to a monitor or you want to use this with other handhelds, go for the Jumpgate Pro. The Jumpgate Pro is going to offer you that extra bandwidth and a couple extra USB ports, which is always nice. There's one on the side, so you are going to have this boosted up to access that one on the side there. And at half the cost, I still think this is a really good option. Let's take a closer look at the two docks in person to see which one is the right one for you. Right off the bat, I can say this is easily my pick between the two. You have a nice USB port here, which you can move to depending on the unit that you want to use with this. You want to slide this all the way to the back for the Odin 2. To adjust this is pretty easy. Flip over the back and slide this lock, then flip it back over, and you're going to notice that you can slide this around now. When you're done, just make sure to lock that in place. We have that LED notification up here. On the front, we have a very glossy plastic, which does attract fingerprints. On the bottom of the dock, we have a rubber grip, so this definitely stops this from sliding around on your desk. However, this does pick up a lot of dust and stuff, so it doesn't really look very nice after a little while of using it. And you can see there's a lot of dust on mine too. On the right side, we have a micro SD card reader and a full-size SD card reader as well. On the left side, there's nothing. The build quality is excellent, and this is the best dock that I've ever seen. This is a hard plastic, and it's kind of soft to the touch, so it is going to attract a little bit of fingerprints, but as you can see, it's not too bad. On the back of the dock, we do have that data transfer USB-C port. We have two USB-As, and we have a USB-C that supports quick charging. We also have that HDMI that will go up to 4K 60, and we have the Ethernet jack. There's also some ventilation at the back here, but there's no fan in it. Overall, this is a really nice dock, and if you're looking to get something premium, this is the way to go. Let me show you what it looks like with the Odin 2 on there. Once you get that USB port lined up, all you have to do is drop it into place. I do want to pick this up just to show you how this is sitting. The grips themselves are actually what's holding up the device, as it kind of sits on this little corner here, and it sits on the other grip corner as well. But that's absolutely fine. There's a little bit of extra space at the front, but that's okay, and I think it looks really nice. If you want to pull this off, it does actually hold on to the dock pretty good. You're going to have to hold the dock down and pull it out to get this out, and the USB port is not under any stress. If you do have one of the Loki devices, this does also work really well with the Loki. It doesn't sit completely flat, but once you position it in the center, it's absolutely fine. It is going to tilt over slightly, but that's okay because it's not damaging the USB port. And you have lots of ventilation up at the top, so that's not being blocked by the bottom here. Let's take a closer look at the Skull & Co dock. The first thing that came to mind when I used this for my Switch was, wow, this thing feels really cheap. The entire body is made out of plastic, and I just went for the standard one since I was actually going to use this for my Switch initially. It does wobble a little bit as well. We have the charging port at the back, we have the HDMI and a USB-A for data transfer, but this only goes up to 480 megabits per second on my model. On the bottom, if you want to get that USB hub out, all you have to do is slide it and it will pull right out. If you already own this and you want the Pro one, you can just buy the USB hub and install it that way. I do think that having a modular design like this is really cool. The only other thing on the bottom is this little port here. If we open that up, there is a small adjustment. You want to have this on with case so the USB port goes up higher. If you set this to the without case, it is going to pull that USB port down into the dock more. Since the USB port on the Odin 2 is a very deep USB port, you do want to set this to with case. Then we can go ahead and close that. You can also notice that there is a subtle texture here which helps resist fingerprints. It's very similar to what you see on the Steam Deck. There are some very small rubber feet, but I do find this slides around a lot on my desk. With that USB port fully extended, you're going to notice one additional issue, and that's this little lock. Because the lock is sticking out here, it is going to make the Switch a little bit more stable. Since we're using this on the Odin 2, we do need to get this out. And I originally thought that some people were cutting this to get this out, but the best way to get this out is just to pull it. First thing you need to do is you need to extend the dock. Push on this to make the top come up. With that extended, this just pulls right out. And now we can put the Odin 2 on there. Make sure to push this down before we dock the Odin. But with that off, the Odin fits really nice. Just like the AYANEO dock, this one does have a little wobble, but it's not as bad. This does fit really nice on here. If you're looking for a cheap way to connect this to the TV, this is probably the way to go. If you look at the front, the Skull & Co dock does provide a very minimalistic look, and only this small piece of plastic is going to be showing on the front. But I think both of these docks are excellent. So let's connect this to my capture card and I'll show you what it looks like. First things first, this is the original Skull & Co dock. And you can see it works without having power plugged into it. I've gone ahead and plugged in my ROG Ally charger, which is doing 65 watt quick charging. If I use the official 100 watt quick charger, after a minute, it does actually show that it's going to take another 43 minutes to charge it fully. The device is obviously taking some of the charge, and the dock is also taking some of the charge. I have this set to the 4K 60 mode, and it works fine. I do recommend connecting it and leaving it at the 4K 60 if this is docking to your TV. Even on the AYANEO Multistation Dock, we can still connect this to TV only without the power connected as well. I do recommend having this put on your desk or permanently under a TV, as it's not going to be something that you want to carry around with you very often. With the AYANEO dock connected to the Odin 2, 4K 60 works well. We can also connect a lot of accessories to this dock, which is a really nice feature. Let me try to connect a microSD card, and with the microSD card connected, the device automatically recognizes it. So I do see that I have my 512 microSD card connected, but I also have the disk on the bottom, and I can open that up and access all my files there. This is just a 250 gigabyte Patriot microSD card, and it seems to work really well. I'm going to go ahead and copy an 800 megabyte file onto my microSD card. This is going to go from the microSD card in the device to my external microSD card that I plugged into the dock, and we're getting around 73 megabytes per second. This is a pretty good speed, as that's going from microSD card to microSD card. Another good feature about this dock is having plenty of USB ports, so you can connect things like a 2.4 GHz controller. However, you're going to notice that there are some issues with the 2.4 GHz controllers right now on the Odin itself. AYN is aware of the 2.4 GHz controller issue though, so hopefully they'll have a fix out for the community eventually. But if you're looking to connect some wired controllers or Bluetooth, you should be okay in that regard. But as you can see, these docks work well with USBs and microSD cards. Both of these docks are targeting different people. I think that if you're going to buy something specifically for the Odin, I do think that the Skull & Co dock is probably the way to go. If you have a Loki, I would recommend the AYANEO dock just because it's going to work with both. If you only want TV connectivity, and if you want it to work with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, I do think that the Skull & Co should work with that as well. So this is going to work for the Odin 2 and the Switch. This is going to work for the Odin 2, the Loki, and of course the AYANEO devices. This should also work with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, but I won't know until I have mine, but I'll have that pretty soon. So between both of these docks, which one do you guys prefer? I think these are both really good docks, and you can't go wrong with either. AYANEO is obviously more expensive, but if you want something to last a long time, I do think this is the way to go. This one does have expanded compatibility though, so you can upgrade it down the road, but yeah, the build quality in this just isn't really great. Since we're only docking it to it, we're not moving it around a lot, this is probably going to be the way that I would recommend going. I've been using this mostly for my Switch, but it is pretty cool to see this compatible with other devices. And I think that having this USB port on the bottom should make it pretty good for a lot of other upcoming handhelds in the coming year, especially since this little piece can be removed. I haven't tried the official AYN dock, but hopefully I'll get one down the road and I'll take a closer look at it to see how it compares to these two. Hopefully this video helped you find a cool dock for your Odin 2. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun with your Odins lately. I think it's an awesome handheld, and make sure to check out my review of the device if you haven't already. As always, if you have any questions regarding these docks or anything that I've talked about today, make sure to ask me in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.